All right, let's talk about one of the biggest economic disasters in modern history, the 2008 financial crisis. We're going to peel back the layers of a story that is so absolutely wild you'd think it was fiction. Okay, let's get into it. Just try to wrap your head around that. Lehman Brothers, a bank that had been around for more than a century and a half, just poof, gone. $600 billion in value, wiped off the map. I mean, this was a shockwave that absolutely cratered people's retirement accounts and sent millions scrambling for work. It sounds completely insane, right? How could a global catastrophe start with something so simple, so appealing? But honestly, that's pretty much what happened. The whole thing really started with a very simple, very American idea. To really get what happened, we need to rewind a bit, back to the early 2000s. The economy was hurting, so the government decided to make money super, super cheap to get things rolling again. And that simple decision, well, it set the stage for an absolute frenzy. So you can see how the dominoes started to fall right here. After the dot-com bubble burst and the shock of 9/11, the Fed cut interest rates down to almost nothing. Suddenly, borrowing money cost next to nothing, which made doing one thing in particular seem like a no-brainer: buying a house. And this was the chant, right? It was everywhere you looked. TV commercials, seminars, billboards. The American dream wasn't just a dream anymore. It felt like a command. You had to own a home. And the banks? Oh, they were more than happy to make that happen for you. And how'd they do it? With things like this, the Ninja Loan. And yes, it stands for exactly what it says: no income, no job, no assets. Lenders were so desperate to get people into houses, they basically threw the rulebook out the window. If you had a pulse, you could get a mortgage. It was that easy. This created an absolute gold rush. I mean, it was total chaos. People were buying houses they knew they couldn't afford. Not to live in them, but to flip them for a quick buck. Everyone from your local barista to your kid's teacher became a real estate speculator. And it was all built on one incredibly dangerous assumption: that house prices would never, ever go down. Okay, so you've got millions of these incredibly risky junk loans floating around. What did Wall Street do with all of it? Well, they performed a kind of financial magic trick. They figured out a way to bundle up all this garbage and sell it as gold. Here's the playbook. First, they took thousands of these bad mortgages and bundled them together into something called a mortgage-backed security, or MBS. The logic was, hey, if you pack thousands of them together, the risk is spread out. A few people might default, but they won't all default at once, right? Then, for the final sleight of hand, they went to ratings agencies and got them to slap a AAA rating on these toxic bundles. That's the safest rating you can possibly get. This created a massive, and I mean massive, conflict of interest. The ratings agencies were being paid by the same banks whose products they were supposed to be rating. It's like a food critic being paid by the chef. You just know they're not going to say anything bad about the raw chicken. Of course, they gave it a good rating. The entire system was built on this lie. But Wall Street wasn't finished yet. They created another layer of complexity: the credit default swap. You can think of it like an insurance policy on these mortgage bundles. But here is the absolutely crazy part. You could buy this insurance on an investment you didn't even own. It was a side bet. It's literally like buying fire insurance on your neighbor's house. You're not protecting yourself. You are actively betting that it will burn to the ground. So what you ended up with was this giant wobbly Jenga tower holding up the entire global financial system. And it was built on a foundation of bad mortgages packaged into fake safe investments with trillions of dollars in side bets piled on top. Each block was a lie, and that tower was getting dangerously high. So what happens to a tower like that? It falls. In 2007, the music stopped, and someone finally pulled the wrong Jenga block. This was the moment everything changed. The one single belief holding that entire Jenga tower up, that home prices only ever go up, was proven to be false. Homeowners started defaulting on those ninja loans left and right, and all of a sudden, those AAA-rated investments were revealed to be what they always were: radioactive garbage. Pure panic set in as banks realized their books were filled with worthless junk. And then, the big one hit. Lehman Brothers, a titan of Wall Street, declared bankruptcy. $600 billion. Gone. In an instant. The collapse of Lehman sent an absolutely terrifying message through the financial world. If a 158-year-old bank could just disappear, then nobody was safe. Banks completely stopped trusting each other, they stopped lending money, and the credit that fuels the entire global economy just froze solid. And this wasn't just some abstract Wall Street problem anymore. Oh no, the fallout was immediate and it was brutal. Businesses couldn't get loans to pay their employees. Families saw their life savings and 401ks get wiped out. This was the beginning of the Great Recession.
So the whole global economy is in a nosedive. The US government was stuck with an impossible choice. Just let the entire system burn to the ground or use taxpayer money to bail out the very people who started the fire.
They chose to bail them out. The government created a massive $700 billion fund called TARP to pump money directly into the too-big-to-fail banks. The logic was, look, if these giants go down, they are taking all of us with them. And this right here, this is what made people so incredibly angry. Look at the two sides of the story. Wall Street got a $700 billion bailout, their CEOs went right back to collecting record bonuses, and not a single major executive went to jail. Meanwhile, on Main Street, 8 million jobs lost, 4 million homes foreclosed, $19 trillion in regular people's wealth just vanished. This image really captures the feeling at the time, doesn't it? The people who lit the match were rescued, while everyone else got burned. The sense of injustice was just overwhelming. And all of that anger had to go somewhere. In 2011, it found its voice in the Occupy Wall Street movement. Protesters gathered, holding signs that said, "We are the 99%," furious at a system that seemed rigged to save the rich and punish everyone else. So, in the end, did the bailouts work? Well, kind of. They did stop a complete and total collapse of the financial system. But the cost was huge. A whole generation lost faith in the very institutions that were supposed to be looking out for them.
And that really brings us to the final question, doesn't it? The system got patched up, but the basic human behaviors that caused the crisis in the first place, the greed, the lack of real oversight, that dangerous belief that this time it's different, they're all still with us. So the real question is, what happens when the next harmless bubble starts to grow?